Now, Washington mornings on the Mall. 105.9 FM. And AM 630. WMAL.
7:37 on WMAL. Brian Neiman, Brian Wilson with you. Good morning, sir.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. KT McFarland, Fox News national security analyst. We're waiting on her. You know, the funny thing about it is that the president did hold a press conference on Monday, and we had said, he only answered 4 questions, but one of those questions was about Syria.
Right.
And he gave an interesting answer, and one we haven't heard before. KT's on the line now. Morning, KT.
Good morning.
So, the president said in that press conference that Syria threatened, quote, enormous consequences if they used chemical, or anyone really used chemical or biological arms, or even moved them in some kind of menacing way, which was a different phrase that I hadn't heard of. What did you make of that? What does it mean?
Well, everybody's now threatening, the escalation is continuing, because the Syrians have said if anybody moves their forces in here to come after us, we're going to use chemical weapons. And now we've said, well, if you start using chemical weapons, we are coming in. So we're kind of going in this roundabout thing. Look, from the whole Syrian situation, it's going from bad to much worse. When Assad goes, and he will go, he'll go in a body bag, then everybody starts taking all the guns they've had aimed at Assad and start shooting each other. In that shooting, you worry that those chemical weapons fall into the hands of Al-Qaeda.
Sure.
They fall into the hands of Hezbollah. Assad, on his way out the door, starts using them against his own people. Assad uses them as bargaining chips with other people, gives them to Hezbollah in exchange for some kind of benefit to himself. But the key is that we've got to make sure those chemical weapons do not fall into the hands of bad guys. And I think that should be our red line, whether we use special forces to get them. We should go in with a coalition. Those chemical weapons threaten everybody in the region. But I don't think that means that the United States then puts boots on the ground and invades Syria. Iraq.
That's what I was going to get to. Is Syria crazy enough or bold enough to say, all right, we'll call your bluff, we'll move some things around. What are you going to do about it?
Well, they are moving stuff around. We've already seen evidence that they're moving stuff around. But I don't think it is any, reason for the United States to send in ground troops. There are other countries in the region which care a lot about those chemical weapons. We have special forces, presumably, in the region. What we've got to just make sure that we do is get rid of them without getting ourselves bogged down in a third Middle East war, which we will no doubt lose.
What about an air war?
Well, there are apparently about 6 sites. Okay, so maybe, I don't know, I'm not a military expert to tell you operationally and tactically how you would take them out, but Syria does have air defenses. They have much more robust air defenses, for example, that even Libya had. So a no-fly zone might be something we want to do. Not a no-fly zone, but to bomb them from the air might be something we want to do. But again, I don't think it means a full-blown war in Syria.
All right.
Which is going to spread.
Yeah. I want to turn to Afghanistan, where there have been some of these so-called green-on-blue attacks getting to be a real problem, where people who are in the Afghan military are attacking our troops, and it's gotten to be a real problem over there.
Yeah.
What's the latest on that?
Well, I think it's going to get to be a worse problem. I've worried for the last 2 years that we're going to end up shooting our way out of there. And I think that's where we are increasingly getting. Again, it's like in Syria. As someone described to me, Syria, a former ambassador said Syria is like the bar scene in the Star Wars movie. Every bad guy and jihadist in the universe is now in Syria trying to make jihad and kill each other. Well, in Afghanistan, the various tribal forces are all positioning themselves for when we leave and the civil war breaks out. And I think that's what you're seeing with the green on blue violence. The supposedly our allies in Afghanistan turning and shooting Americans. That's because they're getting ready for the fight that starts the minute we leave, probably the minute before we leave.
And so we are going to leave.
Here's the thing. Why are we in the middle of everybody else's civil wars? I just don't think that's a place where the United States should be, whether it's a Vietnam civil war or an Iraqi civil war or a Syrian civil war or an Afghan civil war. When we have a mission, which we had a legitimate mission in Afghanistan, we should have gone in, as we did, kill Al-Qaeda, follow them over the border to Pakistan, kill the remaining 100 of them, and come home. But instead, we stick around, we nation build, we choose sides, we try to choose successors, and every single time we make the same mistakes again.
Well, then should we have left Iraq right away after we went in there? And
we'd gone into Iraq supposedly because we thought there were chemical and biological and potentially nuclear weapons there.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I'm not an intelligence officer, an operative to tell you whether that intelligence was accurate or not. But when we went in and found out there were no chemical, biological, or nuclear weapons there, we should have said, victory! Declare victory, leave. But what did we do? We stuck around to, first of all, we got rid of their entire governing structure, their military, their civil service, and then we set about rebuilding it in our own image. And that's a part of the world where, when people stop fighting and there's a peace agreement, they don't think that that's the end and everybody goes about their lives like we do in the battleship Missouri, where we sign a peace agreement and then everybody gets on with their lives.
Yeah.
They think they think of peace as just a temporary cessation while everybody regroups to fight again.
Well, it is a fine line to walk, though, because if the whole Pottery Barn thing, as they used to say, if you own it, you break. If you own it, you break. Yeah, whatever. But you also have with Syria, Libya. Do you just allow it to implode? Do you allow it to continue, or do you want to get dictators out? And same with Egypt. Do you just say, hey, whatever the Egyptians decide, it happens?
Okay, here's the thing with Egypt. We pulled the rug out from under Mubarak. Now, he was a dictator, and some of his people didn't like him. A lot of his people didn't like him. He was a friend to America. Now what are you having in Egypt? We pulled the rug out from under Mubarak. The Muslim Brotherhood has now effectively arranged a coup of the Egyptian military. The Muslim Brotherhood now controls all aspects of government, military, parliament, the presidency. They're going to rewrite a constitution. But from our perspective, what has the military done? They are reoccupying the Sinai Peninsula, a demilitarized zone. They are reoccupying it under the guise of getting rid of Al-Qaeda, and they are going to stay there. And then they're going to abrogate the peace agreement that has kept the peace for 40 years with Israel, and potentially we'll have another Middle East conflict of the likes we haven't seen in 40 years.
All right. KT
So
McFarland.
I think that, watch out what you wish for, because what comes next can be worse.
All right, KT. Always appreciated.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
KT McFarland, Fox News National Security Analyst. You can check her out today. FoxNews.com's DefCon 3 show at 2 o'clock this afternoon. Traffic and weather together in 1 minute. And also we'll get into who will replace Regis Philbin.
Well, nobody can replace him, but somebody's going to take over his chair.
There you go. We'll do that coming up.